Hey there, Mr. Reddit here. Welcome back to another episode of r/Entitled Parent Stories. Our first story we'll be reading today. Karen tries to take my 10,000 euro telescope. After that, Karen thinks I work there, loses it when I help her anyway. After that, Karen causes me extra hours of work because the sound was too loud for her little angel. After that, couldn't be any more obvious. And after that, undercut me on a job by doing poor work? Okay, just wait and see. Now Karen promised me if we can get 1,000 likes on this video, she won't try taking anyone else's telescope for an entire week. So please smash that like button. And if you're new, subscribe and turn on notifications for new stories from Reddit every single day. And huge shout out to our newest official members of the Re-Army, ChuckItBucket007 and Falky. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. Join as an official channel member today and I'll give you a special shout out in our next video. Karen tries to take my 10,000 euro telescope. I am into stargazing and deep sky photography, like the Andromeda Galaxy, since I was about 8 years old and acquired quite a bit of hardware over the years. My most expensive setup is my deep sky photography setup, which cost around 10,000 to 12,000 euro to buy new. It is also my smallest setup as I picked it to be mobile and lightweight, so it looks rather unimpressive. Also important, it can only be used for photography. You cannot look through it by yourself, so it's useless without a very decent camera. Usually, I carry two other setups with me, one with a high focal length and one with a short one. Both are Doppler telescopes, which mainly means they are very stable but heavy as heck, 43 and 54 kilograms in total. Both, all in all, roughly 2,000 euro. Once a year, I go on a camping trip with my best friend to Finland. We enjoy the low light pollution and the cold weather a lot. We usually set up the telescopes right at the start and leave the two big ones outside for the whole duration of the stay and have the expensive one out only when we need it. It is quite normal that people are very interested and we are more than happy to show and explain to them the basics, even though most are disappointed by the huge quality difference between what you see on a photo and with the naked eye. On to the story. We had all telescopes out, hoping to stack some nice M31 images and get a few good looks. Just as we started, a mother and her daughter came up to us. She asked us what we were doing, and my friend happily explained it to them and showed them some closer stuff in one of the telescopes while I was preparing the photography setup and programming everything. This went on for a few minutes, and after a while, the mother jokingly, not really, suggested that we should give her daughter one of our telescopes as we are only 2 people and do not need 3 telescopes. We explained to her that the different body types are for different applications, thus we need all. We also told her that our telescopes are quite expensive, but that she could buy her daughter some beginner ones for around 200 to 400 euro. Of course, she was not going to have that and told her daughter to test the small, expensive, and just set up telescope. I could luckily stop her before she did any harm to my aim and explained the price of the setup and that our time actually runs short and we need to start soon. Of course, she did not believe a single word I said and claimed it would be a 50-year-old toy and perfect for her daughter, but we eventually got rid of her, just a little bit after schedule, which is fine for such objects. We went on with our night, had some successful shots, and somewhere around 1 a.m. decided it's time to go to sleep. So I quickly took the photography setup in the car and locked the Doppler mounting to its corresponding telescope so it cannot be moved anymore unless you move it all at once. Self-made locking mechanism, very proud. We went to our tents, and while my friend was probably already sleeping, I was still on my phone for an hour or so until I heard some noise outside. Hoping it would either be people seeing the northern lights or some wild animal like a fox, I got my shoes and sneaked outside just to see a small person in the dark, desperately trying to carry our biggest 54-kilogram telescope away. It took me a second to understand what was going on, and as I realized it, the person saw me as well and just went off as if nothing ever happened in a fast pace. Sadly, I was not fast enough in my thinking to follow the person, but I am still absolutely certain it was the mother who was trying to steal one of our telescopes, and as we would not give her the small one, which she thought is cheap, she decided she would take the biggest one, which was actually the cheapest, but looks the most expensive due to its size. We have been very lucky that no calibrations were needed after the rough handling, as every single screw has to be perfectly accurately set, which can take hours without the right equipment. And we also have been very lucky to never see that woman and her daughter ever again. For our next holiday, I am getting us a long stainless steel chain so we can lock the two big telescopes together for some extra security. Thank you for reading my first ever bad camping experience. May this never happen to any of you. Do you have a telescope, or have you ever looked through one? Please leave a comment letting me know. Next we've got, Karen thinks I work there, loses it when I help her anyway. So I don't know why, but for some reason it seems like everywhere I go, I get asked if I work there. For reference, I'm a dress comfy type of person, and I live in southern Florida. So on normal days, when I'm just out doing whatever and not working, you can usually find me in capri workout/yoga pants and a t-shirt of some sort and flip-flops. Maybe it's because I keep my phone on a clip on my side, since those kinds of pants usually don't have pockets. Heck, I don't know. Most of the time, when people ask and I smile and politely say, "I'm sorry, no," and they apologize sheepishly and walk away. Except this lady. Cast. We've got Entitled Woman, we've got Entitled Woman's husband, and we've got me. So I was out shopping at a thrift store because I like to go find things to buy and fix up, or use to make other things as a side gig for some extra money. I'm minding my own business, looking through clothing that I could use as fabric for a project when this lady walks up to me. I should mention that this particular thrift store has another thrift store literally next door. There's just a fence that separates the two parking lots and buildings. Entitled Woman. Excuse me? You. I turn and look at her, questioningly, I'm sure. She's probably in her 60s or 70s, well-dressed, typical South Florida snowbird from the looks of it. Her husband is half following her, half looking at stuff along the way as she's coming towards me. Entitled Woman. Do you work here? Before I can even answer, do you know, is today the all clothes are $1 day? That lady over there, gesturing to nobody in particular, said it was. Me. Actually, I don't work here, but this store doesn't do that. That's the store next door. I think they do have that going on today because it's this day of the week, but I haven't been over there yet. She doesn't even acknowledge that I've spoken to her. No thank yous, sorry for bothering you, nothing, and walks away. I let it go, no big deal. I just answered her question, whatever. Well, that should have been the end of it. And aside from being a bit irritating that she couldn't be bothered to acknowledge that I'd spoken to her or anything else, again, no big deal. About 15 minutes later, her husband walks over to where she's at, about 3 racks away from me, still looking through clothes. Entitled Woman's husband. What the heck, Entitled Woman? What in Sam heck are you doing with all those clothes? I see she has a cart literally overflowing with clothing items. What? They're only $1. That girl that works here just told me that. Points at me. Entitled Woman's husband. Like heck she did. You must be deaf. That girl told you that the dollar clothes were next door. I was standing right there when she said it. They don't do that here. Entitled Woman. Well, she's the one that said they were. I don't want all this stuff at regular price. She pushes her cart pretty hard at me. Since you told me they were $1 and they're not, you can put them all back. Me. I didn't, and I still don't work here. I told you that as well when you clearly weren't listening. She turned on her heel and stomped out. Her husband just kind of looked at me like, what the heck, before I could see his expression turn to anger, and he quickly went after her. She didn't come back in, but I did see them outside in the parking lot when he went out after her, and it looked like she was getting a pretty good earful from him. I felt bad and asked the lady that did work there if she wanted help putting the stuff up. Her response? No, you don't work here. We laughed a bit as she rang me out and I went on my way. But seriously, where are these people raised to think that behavior like that is acceptable? I really want to know. Do you have any idea where people like this are raised? If so, please leave a comment letting me know. Next we've got, Karen causes me extra hours of work Because the sound was too loud for her little angel. A little bit of backstory. I do the projection in the church and occasionally the lights. I am 15 years old and I love tech. I use a Mac to do the projections of the songs in the church and have had a few encounters with entitled people, but this one is the cream of the crop. There are 2 places where we have services. One is for the kids, about 200 of them, and the other for the adults, about 1,000, while there are always 3 techies present in the services for the adults, but mostly 1 techie for the kids. I do the light there when I'm alone and the projection, and someone sets up the sound and then leaves. That person is the sound guy. This day, there was just a service for the kids, and that's why I was alone. There's a cable that goes from the Mac straight up for 7 meters, and it's attached to the ceiling. It has never been an issue before. We've got me, we've got entitled daughter, we've got entitled mother. The techies, people who do sound and projection and lights, have a podium with 2 openings on the side and a large desk where all equipment needed stands on. The Mac is in the middle, so that's where I sat. Let's get on with the story, shall we? The sound techie already set up all the audio and everything was good to go. I don't know anything about the sound. I set up the lights, different colors, etc., and the projection. First encounter. Entitled daughter comes up to the podium and says, "Turn the lights down." Really entitled. I say no. She says, "Why?" And I say, "Well, the lights are not too bright, and it looks better this way." She was disappointed, but she sat down. Second encounter. Entitled daughter comes up to me again and she says, "The music is too loud." Really loudly when she was only 2 meters away from me. The sound wasn't really that loud, so I said, "No, it's perfectly fine." She said, "You're annoying," really loudly and went angrily back to her seat. Then, after 10 minutes, she got up and left. I thought nothing of it, as she probably had to go to the bathroom. But she came back with her mom. Enter entitled mom. She was rocking the Karen haircut and had this angry expression on her face, and she was coming straight towards me. She said, "Turn the volume and the lights down." I said, "No, I'm not allowed to touch the sound mixer, and even if I was, I still wouldn't do it, and I won't turn the lights down." Then entitled mom said, "Fine, I'll do it myself." She came up to the podium and I said, "You can't come here," and I guarded the tech by standing in front of her when she was trying to get past me. The singers were still singing, but I couldn't do the text because I had to stop entitled mom. The text is really important because it's what allows everyone to sing along. But I heard the kids not singing anymore because they didn't know what to sing. The Mac requires my constant focus to do the projection, and this entitled daughter came from the other opening while I was holding her mom back and trying to calm her down. She was screaming and saying, "Let me turn it down. Let me turn it down for my little angel." And she was making quite a scene. Now I saw the entitled daughter from the corner of my eye tugging a rope that went all the way to the ceiling. My brain took 10 seconds to process this, but it was too late. The entitled daughter tugged so hard, the whole cable came down with the projector and it fell 7 meters. I ran to entitled daughter and said, "What did you do?" Now the entitled mom was pulling the cables out of the back of the audio mixer and screaming at me for not listening to my elders. While I was focusing on the entitled daughter and heard a loud screech from all boxes, I had to run behind the podium to flip the main electric switch from that hall to not let the horrible sound continue. Now some of the people went to entitled mom and entitled daughter while they were trying to steal the Mac and held them while someone else called the police. Afterwards, me and 5 other techies had to hire a platform to get everything to the ceiling again. And we were busy for hours trying to get the software for the audio and lights and Mac back into working order. Speaking of Mac, what do you prefer, Mac or PC? Please leave a comment right now letting me know. Next we've got, couldn't be any more obvious. I had received my paycheck this Thursday, and since my father was out of town for the week for work, I decided to help him out a bit more and buy his part of the groceries for the week along with my own. We usually go grocery shopping together on the weekends, but we each buy our own things since we eat different foods. Me saving up my money by getting basic ready-to-eat food like ramen noodles, potatoes, bread, eggs, stuff I know I can last a week with $10 or so, while he spends a bit more for meat, vegetables, certain ingredients, etc. Since he'd be spending a bit more money on gas for the trip back home this Sunday, I figured he probably wouldn't have too much to spend for his groceries once he got back. So I wrote down a list on my phone of the things he usually gets when we shop. Luckily, he always buys pretty much the same stuff every week, so I know what to get. Fast forward to today, Friday morning. I get up pretty early to cash my check and head to the store near my house before the lines get pretty long, as it would get colder later during the day when I'd have to return home. I make it to the store, and it seems like it's about to start filling up. So I grab a cart and start making my way through the aisles and get what we need. I fill my cart pretty quick with what I need, walking along, picking things off the shelf when I turn to the next aisle and see a woman with her cart parked sideways, blocking the area off as she looks up at an employee on a ladder reaching things off a high shelf, presumably for her. She's huffing and looking around impatiently, seemingly annoyed. I figure, poor guy, having to deal with entitled stuck-up Karen, which was odd since she didn't look like a Karen. I turned my cart to go to the next aisle, hoping she wouldn't be blocking off the area once I returned. But because my cart was getting full, it was quite heavy, and I slowly reversed and turned around. Unfortunately, I wasn't fast enough to leave and might have either made eye contact, she read my mind and noticed I called her Karen, or was annoyed that I sympathized with the employee and not her, because he was just an employee while she needed him to hurry up because she needed to pick up Jeffrey from soccer practice. Anyway, she noticed me and my turning my cart around as she turned and began speed walking towards me. At first, I didn't think anything of it. She probably saw something on a lower shelf she needed and went to pick it out. It was only when I was halfway in the next aisle when I heard her footsteps jog up next to me and grabbing my cart, actually calling out in a quite polite tone, "Excuse me." I was surprised at first, wondering why she'd go out of her way to stop a complete stranger in a polite manner, especially from seeing her from afar looking peeved and annoyed at an employee mere seconds ago. I quickly stopped my cart before I accidentally hit her or run over her foot, as after grabbing my cart, she stood in front of it. I thought maybe it's an emergency, but again, why go up to a stranger when the store associate was right there? Either way, I'm always polite to everyone I meet, and thus the conversation begins. Me, caught off guard. "Oh, yes? What's wrong? Can I help you?" Karen, still sounding polite. "Yes, I need your help." Me, "What is it?" "Come with me," as she begins to walk away. Me, "Okay." I start slowly turning my cart again to follow her. No, leave the cart there." Me, confused, but still thinking she may need actual help with something. Leave my cart to the side so I don't block the aisle and follow her. Oh, okay. Karen leads me to the previous aisle she was blocking, and her tone of voice changes. "Go get another ladder and help out your fellow associate here. He's having trouble taking items off the shelf quickly, and I want to get to the checkout line before it gets too long. You can finish stocking things later." Me, letting out a small chuckle. "Oh, sorry. I don't actually work here. I'm actually doing my own shopping." Karen, "Oh, please. I'm sure you can spare a bit of your time helping me out. Just get a ladder and help me with the things I need off those high shelves. Stocking everything doesn't take so long. I'm sure you've been here all morning putting things away anyway." Me, "I can't help you with that. Sorry, I don't work here, like I said. I'm actually just a customer, just like you. Maybe you can find an actual employee, or I can walk around shopping, and if I see someone, I can tell them someone needs assistance in your aisle." Karen, "Look, I really don't have time for this. Either get another ladder or leave if you don't want to help." The actual employee that was up on the ladder must have finally looked down, as I'm sure he was still picking her items or moving some stuff around, and pointed out to Karen. Excuse me, ma'am. He's not an employee." Karen looked up at him, then back at me, and finally noticed that I, in fact, wasn't an employee. The employee uniform at this store is a blue collar shirt with black dress pants and black dress shoes. I was wearing black jeans with a tear in the knee, white sneakers, a black t-shirt with a tuxedo design, and a gray hoodie and a beanie. I understand me walking around quickly with a cart full of stuff may look like I'm a stalker trying to work quietly, but as for the uniform, I have no idea. Karen, looking a bit embarrassed. "Oh, sorry." Me, No, it's okay. It's all right." I make my way back to my cart and proceed to finish up my list and head to checkout, pay, and head on home. It was nice in a way to see a Karen quickly turn from snobby and stuck up to genuinely apologetic for making a mistake and owning up to it. Although rare, not the first time I've seen a Karen, but definitely my first interaction with one. Next we've got, undercut me on a job by doing poor work? Okay, just wait and see. I was an observer in this whole affair, but to say I didn't enjoy the heck out of it would be a lie. Company A did fencing, walls, barriers, etc. Company A was run by Bob. Bob was a real upstanding guy, took over the business from his father, and really grew it into something big. Bob had an employee, Jake. Jake had been with Company A for quite a few years, but Bob and Jake always rubbed off on each other in the wrong ways. Bob always felt like Jake was the king of shortcuts and shoddy workmanship. When Bob took over the company from his dad, Bob applied more pressure on Jake to bring up the quality of his work or be let go. Eventually, Jake got tired of the increased pressure and quit and formed his own fencing company called Company B. Here is where I come in. I started a job in a company providing business services to small to medium-sized businesses in the area, and both Company A and Company B became my clients. This was several years after Company B had formed. From my outside viewpoint, Company A was that local company that's been around forever that does good quality work that you can trust, but they aren't going cheap. They never try to be cheap, but you can trust them. Company B was the young startup who was cutting corners and being competitive in every way possible, often by lying or misleading its customers. That's when Company C comes in. Company C was building a production facility in the area and wanted a wall with gates around its new production facility. This was going to be a big contract, and really the only two players in the area that could possibly do this job was Company A or Company B. This contract was worth a lot. If my memory serves me correctly, the job was somewhere near 7 figures. Company A and Company B went to go bid. Company B came in at like a 30% lower price point, and even though Bob tried to explain it wasn't possible for Company B to do the work that was promised at the price point that was given, of course, money talks, and Company B got the contract. I remember Bob was furious in his eyes. He felt what Jake was doing was wrong. He didn't mind fair competition, but Jake's MO has always been way underbid, overpromise, rely on cost overruns to make a profit. Bob's opinion on business was a price is a price, and if he says he's going X for Y, he's going to do X for Y, even if he loses money. It's how he was raised. Some time goes by, and Bob gets a call from Company C. They've apparently fired Jake and his company due to not being able to do the work required, and ask Bob if he can come in and fix the mistakes. Bob agrees and gets the job done. At this point, Bob starts thinking, he's got to take Jake out. Jake is taking too much money out of his pocket. Bob comes up with the idea of buying Jake out, but Bob knows if he approaches Jake, regardless of what he offers to pay, Jake is going to say no. So Bob has got to be smart. Bob is talking to me about this during one of our meetings. We had become quite close, and I tell Bob, I bet there are lawyers out there who specialize in helping other companies acquire other companies. Bob asks me if I know of any. I don't, but I did have a client who specialized in business law who would be more familiar with this whole thing. I give Bob his contact info, and Bob thanks me. Bob contacts the lawyer and tells the lawyer what he would like to do. The lawyer tells Bob a lawyer who used to work for him now works for a firm that specializes in mergers and acquisitions, and if Bob wanted to buy out Jake's company, he's confident this firm could get it done. Also, this firm was in the big city, far away from the small community, so it's unlikely Jake would know what's truly going on. Bob contacts the firm and says he wants to buy out his competitor and would like to enlist their services. Now this is already getting a bit longer, so I'll get to the point. This firm ended up buying Jake's company, lock, stock, and barrel, and gave the company to Bob. All the while, Jake was completely oblivious to the fact that his arch-enemy had just acquired his very own company. I recall Bob describing to me the day he walked into Jake's company with such delight. Bob was told he owned the company. Jake had been paid and was expecting to meet the new owner of the company that pleasant Monday morning. Jake was given the title of General Manager and was considered second in command now. So Bob walked into the building that once belonged to Jake with his documents and the lawyer that had helped him acquire the firm, who Jake was familiar with. Bob walked into Jake's office to Jake's surprise. Jake. Hi, Bob. Bob. Hi, Jake. How are you? I'm good. What are you doing here? Oh, nothing much. Just thought I'd come check out my newly acquired business. Jake. Huh? Bob. Jake, you sold your company to me. I did what? No, I didn't. I sold it to XYZ. XYZ is the law firm I hired to organize the transaction. I am now the owner. Jake. That's BS. Bob. Here's your documents. Lawyer who Jake was familiar with confirmed this was all true. So, you're now my boss? Yes. Now get up. That's my chair, and I'm tired. I want to sit down for a minute. Jake. This is my office. Bob. This is my company, and I have decided that this office is now my office, so I'm going to need you to get out of my chair. Jake gets out of the chair. Great. Well, have a seat, Jake. Jake. Thanks. Bob. Jake, I think the first order of business today is getting rid of redundancies. What do you mean? Well, you see, Jake, whenever a company acquires another company, you get overlap, redundancies, 2 HR departments, 2 secretaries, 2 accountants, etc. But now it's all one company. So now you got redundancies, overlaps, which is quite frankly a waste of money. Jake. Yeah? Bob. And I don't need 2 owners working for one company. And he laughs and told me he had the biggest grin on his face. Jake, it's become apparent that your services are no longer required, and effective immediately, you are terminated. Jake protested. Bob. The decision is final. You may collect your personal belongings and leave the premises. What time did you get into work this morning? 7 a.m. Great. So you've been here for 2 hours. I'll make sure payroll pays you for 2 hours on the agreed upon rate and the buyout agreement. Have a nice day. Jake. So you're just firing me? Just like that? Yep. Should have done this long ago. What about my family? Jake, I just bought your company from you and paid you a lot of money. You'll be fine. Now get out of my office and out of my building. And that is how Bob acquired and fired an employee he should have fired long before. Some background. I remember the day vividly when Bob scheduled an appointment with me to go over Company B's services and negotiate a new service contract with us. It was the day Bob had fired Jake. Bob was in a great mood, one of the best moods ever. We did the business we needed to handle, and Bob said, PJ, you helped me a lot get this all done. I'd like to invite you out to dinner and drinks, and let's watch Monday Night Football together. I really hadn't. I said, Bob, I really didn't do much. He said, oh yes you did. You pointed me in the right direction. I go, well, that's the least I could do. He said, very well. Still, I'd like to take you out to dinner and drinks if that's all right with you. Now, I'm not one to turn down free beer and food, so I agreed. And that night, Bob and I went to a local hangout and watched Monday Night Football and ate and drank as Bob recounted this whole experience with such joy. Bob later rebranded Jake's company as a commercial-only enterprise and refocused his main company on residential, and both companies still exist today and are run by Bob and his son now. Do you feel sorry for Jake at all? If so, why or why not? Please leave a comment right now letting me know. And shoutouts to our Regenerals of the day, The Proclaimed, The Mad Hacker, and 88 Ice Queen. Become tomorrow's Regenerals by leaving as many reads as you can in the comments below, and please listen to my playlist every night when you go to sleep.